Hello, Facebook family. How are you? It's Mama Monday time. It's Monday night, 9, a little bit after 9, 9:04. Thank you for taking some time today to hop on and share some good stuff about families and mamas and daddies and children and the family thing. I am really totally looking forward to what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm so thrilled that I have a voice tonight. So we are going to have fun with what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm going to try to make your time worth your while and be right on the dot when we finish up. I'm just always honored to get to chat and share. And gosh, guys, this family thing is hard. It's been a very interesting one of those Mondays. And you know what? It is tough. It is hard. Kind of tears your heart out, puts it through a cheese grater, and you got to put it back together. So all I want to do, my heart, is that I can share some of that nitty gritty stuff with you over the past 23 years that Zoe and I have been graced with an amazing opportunity to trust the dickens out of what God can do through us despite our mistakes. So anyway, to hop on the subject and to just hopefully bless you, and I was going to bless me just because I'm hanging out with you. I'm very honored. Let's get back to what we talked about last time on Mama Monday. And we will be here. I will be here, you and me. We will be here next Monday at 9. And that will be as consistent as I possibly can make it. And the cool, exciting little piece of flash news is that my YouTube channel is up. And so that means you'll be able to go there and get long content like this whenever you want to, and you can share it. And so I'm very excited about that. My amazing IT guru, my 15-year-old, has helped me with some of that. So back to the subject at hand, okay? Last time we met, we talked about character being the pie plate. So if you were not here, we talked about a pie, had a picture there, and I believe I put it in the comments. You can always go back on my timeline and see the live video. We had a pie with 4 pieces, and for our family, so it's different for every family, we have names for those pieces of pie as you're just doing what you're doing with your family, what's important to you, what makes sense to you, what God has shown you to do for your family. And so for us, we had an academic piece and a spiritual piece and a practical piece and a social piece. Okay, and those pieces, of course, look different, as families all look different, no matter where you educate or where you do spiritual training or how you do all those things, what you do at home. Those are pieces of the pie. But the crux of the matter, or the bottom line, was that the character piece is not just a piece, it's the pie plate. Character is the pie plate, okay? And that actually came to me that exact day that we were talking about it. I'd never really thought about it in that way, and it coming across in my heart that way was very exciting. I was so just pumped because it made so much sense. And that's how we're going to get into tonight, how it's going to connect with what we're talking about tonight. Because, of course, it's in depth. Of course, it's not something that you just do one night and you're done. Not just a breakfast conversation and you're done. We're talking, years and years and years of little by little by little by little. And there are certain things in our society that help us understand that type of commitment, that type of sacrifice. When I was a little girl, I remember watching Nadia Comaneci and what she did in the Olympics, and Bella Caroli and how he coached her. And that was such an amazing story, watching that in my childhood. And of course, she's an American now, American citizen. But we understand when we look at certain areas like that it's going to take it's going to take hard work, guys. It's hard. It's dig in your heels. Just pull up your bootstraps and get after it. You're going to have to dig in. You're going to have to dig deep it's hard stuff. But when it comes to running a family, seeing it as your own Fortune 500 company, you know, if you ran Apple and you were Steve Jobs, you know, it was a really big sacrifice. It was what you did. It was your thing. You know, it's hard work. But when we start talking about a family, sometimes we have somewhat of a microwave mindset. You know, we think it's just going to happen just like that. And unfortunately, I think deep down we know, of course, it's going to take more than that because it's obviously got all our blood and guts wrapped up in it, and it's all the feels, it's all the tough stuff. But the encouraging part of that is, you know, if we can see it in those things that don't matter as much to us, then when it comes to our families, when we start applying it to what's most important, you know, when you're at the sunset of your life, your time's almost over, you know, that's what you're going to care about. You're going to care about, is my family at my bedside? Are they helping me walk over to the other side and move to heaven? Have I left a letter to time I'll never see? You know, anyway, thinking about later versus now really helps us get that big picture. Okay. All that to say, we covered those pieces of the pie, characters of the pie plate, and then I wrapped up with the story about my son, who's 21, and something I saw him do that exact day. And it was such a neat story, and he didn't know that I saw him. It just happened right in front of my eyes, and he didn't realize that I drove by. We're in a little small tiny town. It just was kind of a fluke, and I shared that story. He had helped a woman with her dog who was running into the highway, and, you know, nobody really would have seen him do that. And I was saying, you know what? That took 21 years, not because Zoe and I can take credit for it, but because watching that at the end of 21 years, it didn't happen overnight. Is what I'm trying to say. And since that time, I heard a man say, you know, it takes 21 years to be 21. And I loved that. That just makes so much sense. It takes time to get to the spot we're trying to get. And when we think it's not going to take that much time, I think is the hardest part. But when we surrender, you know, it's going to take 21 years to get somebody to 21. Let's talk about our kids, of course, in that light. Then I think we relax and we let our shoulders down, and we know the rubber has to meet the road, and we just have to get after it little bit by little bit. Okay, so connecting characters the pie plate to what we're going to talk about today, which is, okay, cool, characters the pie plate. Well, how do I build a character, what I call house? How do I build a character house? Okay, if you ask any of my kids, and for fun tonight, that's exactly what I did when we were eating dinner tonight. I asked our kids this question. Okay, so a lot of what we're going to talk about, they actually said. And I thought, wow, gee, I should have done that a long time ago. No, I ask them things a lot, but that's part of what we're going to talk about tonight. So we've established characters of the pie plate. Now we're going to delve into how do I build a character house? Again, if you ask any of my children, what's a character house, they're going to tell you the story of a book series that we read. I highly recommend it if your children are in the, I don't know, probably 15 and under area. It's kind of like a boy version of Little House on the Prairie. It's called the Little Britches series by Ralph Moody. I can't recommend it highly enough. It doesn't matter if you have girls or boys, they will love it. It's fantastic. It does have a few spots where there's some expletives, and you'll notice the context and everything, and where that comes up, you'll be able to see it. But you will love what goes on in that book series, and that's where I got the phrase character house. Okay, so if you ask them about that, they're going to say, oh my goodness, Mom talks about that a lot. Character house. Sometimes they get sick of hearing it, as is the case with all the things we're trying to drill into their brains, right? But tonight, I asked them, you know what, guys, if I was to ask you, what does a character house mean? How do we build a character house? Why do we talk about this all the time? Why is this so important to our family? Well, what it boiled down to when we chatted tonight was something I cannot wait to share with you, because we've talked about this part of it too. And this is the overwhelming answer that we had. And this was conversation with Esther, Ben, and Phoebe and down, and they're in the 15 and down age group, okay? And they said, well, we have a house, okay? And so for a house, we have to start with what? We have to start with foundation, okay? And Phoebe said the foundation of the house would be, in context of the character house, it would be who we are, okay? And they began to expound on that. Who we are is what regulates anything else that happens in our life. A funny phrase that I say a lot to the kids and in general conversation: if you can take out the trash, you can be president of the United States, okay? I.e., if you can do the mundane, if you can do the small, if you can do the regular old Joe kind of stuff, your character house is going to grow, okay? You're going to build that really good, solid foundation. But if you're building a new house, and our family is dreaming and talking about building a house someday in the future, you can't start without a foundation. You can't go get the bricks. You can't go get the siding. You can't start furnishing it. You have to have the foundation. Well, a foundation is built with knowing who we are, okay? And as you'll know from all the times that we've got to talk together, I am a big nuts and bolts person. I want the practical. I want the action steps. My husband is more, what's the spiritual ramifications, okay? Good morning, or good evening, Karen. How are you? That is a really good peanut butter sandwich there, of course, because he's strong in that and I'm strong in the other, and you help staff each other's weaknesses. But I want to know, hey, how do I do this? That's cool. That's great. I really like that idea. I think it's a good idea, but how do I do it? So that's what I want to cover tonight, and I'm hoping it's going to help each one of you in some way. Who we are is the foundation of the character house. How we build the character house, we need the foundation first. That's establishing who we are. So if we're talking about parenting, okay, that means feeding our children full of who they are. And talking about their name. What does their name mean? What is their heart about the world? Feeding them everything you can about a God kind of worldview. What does the Bible say about them? What do you think their mission is here on the planet? At a very young age, children will start telling you those things. They'll start saying, hey, I think I should do this. I think I should do that. You see people on TV making shows about little kids who say, oh, I want to be a fireman in New York City. You know, they start dreaming and imagining so young, but we have a tendency as adults to squash it to where once they get older, that dreaming, imagination type ability could be pushed and repressed down. And we don't want that to happen. And as we're talking through, hey, this is what I think I need to do. This is what I'm excited about in life. The other thing that has to correlate at the same time is the character house, okay? One of the really insightful things that you can do with children, especially if they like things like sports or competition. There's a documentary entitled Broke, and yes, very, very early. And I can't recall if it has anything questionable. Please do not count on that. You'll have to scan it out yourself, please, because it's been a while since we've watched it. But the point of that documentary was that when a entirely astronomical amount of compensation comes to certain professional athletes, many of them, a very high percentage of them, end up with nothing. That's why the documentary is entitled Broke. And I just quickly mention that to emphasize that the character house has to be in place for the other stuff to correlate simultaneously for it to grow. And it has to happen first. Obviously, in building the house, that's what we want first. That foundation, who we are, is going to hold up everything else. a really great thing to help with this subject area is, if you've never heard this kind of advice, it's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given. And it was given to me many, many, many years ago when we first started. And that was, you know what? Make sure that your children read what is called living books. Books that are not pieces of information gathered by one publisher from all kinds of places, but living books, books that talk about great men and great women, people that went through hardship, people that overcame hurdles and obstacles, famous people. We're talking about the population in the United States here in February, famous Black Americans, big contributions that they have made to the world and the United States more specifically, finding those published works of these people that are either biographical, autobiographical, the good stuff about what these people actually did. And what you'll find in common with many of these living books is that 99% of the time, these people that you're reading about that have changed history, of course, top of the list there is Bible and Jesus, right? He changed the world forever. The things that these people went through to get where they were wanting to go. If you've never read the story of George Washington Carver, you have to look up that man's amazing story. He shouldn't have even been here. He was miraculously saved through an amazing set of circumstances. You know, feeding your kids ideas and happenings about people that have been there, lived life. You know, I just turned 46 last month, and I feel like literally I am starting a whole new set of I don't know, seasons. Like I'm in my second 50, I guess you'd say. I'm not quite to 50 yet, but it feels like I'm just beginning to learn. And that's, of course, a very wonderful side effect of always pouring into your children, because they convict you, they teach you, you're constantly learning. Lorenzo always says, hey, we're getting about 13 more degrees than we started out with having these children, because, as will be the case with you, they give you something that you don't have. They push every single button you've ever had. Zoe also says they untie your goat. They know how to get your goat. Okay. And all that put together, we're talking about feeding who they are, thinking about your words. What are you saying? When I first started out with Hannah, I found a magnet. Maybe someone gave it to me. I still remember how it looks, and I'm not sure where it went, but it was a list on this little magnet about this big, and it said words to say to your children. You know, sometimes it just helps, again, nuts and bolts people, to read something that gives you the next idea. Honey, you're the best. I am so excited that God gave us you as a gift. I'm so happy you're here. That's one of the things I like to say to the kiddos before they go to bed at night. I'm so glad you're here. I want them to know I'm really happy that you're here. I like you. You know, we have to love our kids. That's what our older kids always say. If we compliment them, they'll say, well, you're biased. You have to love us. Well, yeah, maybe. But you know, it's another whole thing to say you like your children, right? You liking your children is a whole nother wonderful thing. Okay. And that's in spite of the terrible nitty gritty yuck that happens. I had more than one thing happen today that was just, remember I mentioned the cheese grater. Okay. And that's okay. That's what this is made up of. That's why it's worth so much, because it costs so much. Okay. So let me keep our train of thought. So we're building a character house, okay? And I mentioned the Ralph Moody series, a beautiful living book set that you should look up. Not expensive. I think there's about 8 books in it. The father in that family ends up moving to heaven early. And the young man that wrote the books, that's autobiographies, he basically tells the story of his childhood and how he had to become the man of the family. This happened in the early 1900s. It's all true. Okay. And one of the things his father told him, and I took it from him, it's not my original idea. He said, Ralph, you have to have a character house. If you don't have the character house first, you can't do anything else. Okay? That's stuck in my brain like glue. It's stuck in my heart like glue. Okay? So we're building this character house. We have to have the character house. I think it's really easy sometimes, and again, this can happen in my situation, having a bigger number of our tribe. It's easy to say, okay, well, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that, let's do all these things before we focus on who. Okay, the who part is tantamount, and when you're focusing on that, we're talking about all the character qualities. We're talking about honesty, teaching them to obey, teaching them how to act and respond in public places, teaching them how to eat well and not be picky. That's a biggie. That could be a whole Momma Monday. Lots of experiences with that at my house. Lots of questions about that from other mommies. That's a really tough area and a really important one to conquer. Not easy. Their name, the words we say, apologizing when we totally screw everything up. And believe me, that's a regular occurrence. Remember Proverbs? Practice, not perfection. One of my most favorite sayings. If you fall down 7 times, get up 8. It's in Proverbs. Love that. And I need it. And I'm going to assume that you need it. So, all that good stuff. Yes, you can do the Little Britches series on audio. It's fantastic. All of those things, all of that goodness is the who you are section, okay, of the house. Got to build the foundation first. We're building the foundation of the character house, okay? And again, I was talking with the kids at dinner time. This is some of the feedback that I got. And of course, a lot of what they're telling me, you all, I know. That's what Zoe and I have been teaching them. That's what they've been hearing over and 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 over. Okay, but as you hear something, it becomes yours. You learn it for yourself. And then, as we've talked about in previous videos with our older kiddos, our older young adults, you hit 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and you suddenly hit that space where you think, you know, I don't think mom and dad I don't think they know that much. And I laugh because I've been 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and I had those birds flying over my head, and I let them nest in my hair plenty of times, okay? I went to eat ice cream with Zoe and my mom and dad last night, and they're 71 and beautiful and healthy and living an amazing life. I'm so grateful for them and proud of them, all the things they've accomplished. But guess what? I'm sitting across the table with them at Brahms, and you know what's flying over my head? That they pretty much know everything. Yep, I think they know just about everything. Oh, did I think that? At 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, no. But that space of time we have, let's say in utero, I'm going to go all the way back to that. In utero, after conception, okay, a child can hear your voice. And conception, I do mean the moment that cells are married together and breathed on by an amazing God. The minute that happens, that microscopic life is hearing us. It's becoming something beautiful. It's listening. That, man, that gives me chills. They can hear, they can see, they know those words of love and affirmation, and I'm happy you're here. And from conception all the way to, let's say 12 or 13, they hear what we say and they emulate it. They hear their name. Little Rowan hears her name and she says, well, my name is Rowan, or my name is Rowie. She hears her nickname. She hears all of these things. She can sing Zacchaeus because she's heard us sing Zacchaeus. She can say complete sentences at 2 because she's heard complete sentences, not because she's anything super extra special different from anybody else. She's just a little one who is picking up all of those things in the atmosphere around her, and your children are too. And the reason we have an amazing God who fathers us is because, yeah, we have some bad seeds going out there sometimes. We say the wrong thing sometimes. We totally, completely flub it up sometimes. And we stop and we go, God, thank you. Your mercies are new every morning. Rui, I apologize. Forgive Mommy, because I totally raised my voice and I was not on top of what I needed to say there. She may not have any idea what that means, but she senses the shift of it. And she is absolutely cognizant of what is going in like a sponge. She's that amazing wet cement, okay? And we have that period of time, that 0 to 5 completely wet cement time, on top of the maybe 5 to 12 area, where yes, they are repeating, they are exhibiting, they are walking out what they've been hearing. Then they start to develop their own opinions. They start hearing in the inside, here is my mission, here's my vision for my life on the planet Earth. And it just is this beautiful transformation. And then you have a 23-year-old almost that I spoke to on the phone today that is in a completely different place. She's about to have her second baby. She's jiving with some of those long-term things that her dad and I talked about with her entire life. But now it has some guts to it. It has little amazing real people that she's working on and talking to. Okay? Oh my goodness. It's incredible. And the time we have, the time span we have. Okay, I digress. So the character house, okay, we've got the foundation built. The foundation is who we are. I'm checking my watch. Oh goodness, I'm almost there. The foundation is who we are. That's connected to our last show, my last show about the pieces of the pie and characters of the pie plate, if you're just joining in. Okay, so the rest of the house. Okay, what about the frame and the siding and the insulation and the furnishings and the HVAC and all that other good stuff? Well, that stuff is what they do. Okay, we've got the who they are on the foundation. Okay, it has to be first. It's tantamount, absolutely has to be first. Then all the stuff that goes on top of the foundation, that is what they do. So that connects to something that I think we've talked about. I'm not sure how many times I may have mentioned it before, and so I don't want to repeat it unnecessarily, but it's this beautiful little phrase that I felt like God showed me when I was a much younger mother. I was just starting out with the first 3 kids, and here it is. It's a little poem. I'll try to post it after we're finished. I am loved for who I am, not for what I do. But what I do is always becoming a reflection of who I am. Okay? So what I do is a reflection of who I am. It's not first. Okay, we can't build the top part of the house, the sides and the roof and the furniture, if we don't have the foundation. The foundation is who we are. And that's the most critical mass time for mom, dad, implanting all that stuff in our children. Okay, then what they do starts springing up from that. Okay, and that's where I want to connect what I said about Nathaniel and the story about him helping the dog out of the highway when he thought nobody was watching. You know that I know that my 21-year-old and my 23-year-old, my young adult age children, I know they're not perfect, and they know I'm not perfect. I know their weaknesses, they know my weaknesses. But the character to make those decisions has been being worked on since conception, little by little by little. And in his case, let me circle around to him just so you know, he was my little boy who was in some kind of trouble, it seemed like, every single day in his life from the age of 10 to the age of 12. If you've raised boys, I know you feel me, okay? Almost every single day. He was my little boy who pulled out every single thing in our house and pulled it apart. Okay, this is before we realized, I think that He could be this amazing craftsman. Oh my goodness, I think he could transform a building full of pallets full of wood into an amazing custom kitchen, as he just did in a nearby town this past week. That started out with my clock radio pulled apart. That started out with things scattered down the entire staircase that he had pulled apart. Oh my goodness. And I could go on and on and on and on. So any parent here, you feel me, you get it. Okay, so I hope that that picture encourages you wherever you are. If you're grandparenting, if you're parenting, if you are just beginning, if you've never even gotten married, if you haven't had children yet, please be encouraged that it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. Okay, you want to build a character house. Work on the foundation first. Don't forsake the foundation. Don't rush it, okay? Don't settle for a less than amazing foundation. I don't mean they're going to be perfect. I mean consistent, good steps, consistent, good choices, consistent, good response when there's a bad choice, which is just as important because they're going to happen. Okay, just don't forsake that foundation. Then the rest of the character house is the stuff on the outside. It's what we do. It's what they do. Then all of the do is going to come into play. The who is before the do. Okay, and that's our character house. And as I finished up, we were talking tonight at dinner, my 16-year-old said, I think the word for the character house as a whole, the whole entire character house, is legacy. That's our legacy. That's what we leave on the planet. That's the mark that we make. And this all really, truly, it could obviously apply beyond our families, to our businesses, our work, our ministries, whatever else we do that doesn't directly relate to our families, but our families are the center. They're the first part. And when we do that, everything else is affected. Little towns and country areas are affected. Little counties are affected. States are affected. Nations are affected. The world is affected little by little by little. So I hope that gives you a good picture tonight of the amazing family thing that happens when we build our character house. So I hope that's been a blessing to you. I am absolutely honored, thrilled, every single one of you hopped on here. And just as a quick note, my YouTube channel is up, so you'll be able to go and see some of the things there that you can not normally see on Facebook. That's being done as we speak. And I will still be here, Facebook Live, Momma Monday on Monday night. So next Monday, I look forward to seeing you. And thank you so much. If you have comments, if you have questions, please leave them here. And I'll really look forward to seeing you next week. You all have an amazing, blessed week of February the 11th and beyond. Have an amazing night too. Bye, guys.